Buddymeister? Where are you? Buddy?
Wow, Jimmy, you sent me a parcel from Germany. What's in it?
Well, open it.
Ooh. What is it? There's no label or anything.
Just try it. It's really good.
I'll just do that. Tasty. You know, Jimmy, for a second I thought you wanted to poison me.
What? I would never do that. Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage.
And I'm Deniz, the Buddymeister.
We have reviewed about 400 Indian movies on the channel, and when I was checking out what we could watch next, I stumbled upon this one on Mubi. I had no clue that it would end up becoming one of my favorite Indian films.
Saaransh is a 1984 Hindi language drama that was written and directed by Mahesh Bhatt. It stars Anupam Kher, Rohini Hattangadi, Soni Razdan, Madan Jain and Niru Phule. The story of Saaransh revolves around BV and Parvati Pradhan, an elderly couple who comes to terms with the loss of their only son.
Isn't it funny that this was actually Anupam Kher's debut as a leading man? He was only 28 years old at the time, but he plays a man in his 60s. Rohini Hattangadi, who plays his wife, was also just 32 years old. I mean, it's certainly noticeable, there's only so much you can do with old age makeup, and you might wonder why they didn't just cast older actors in these roles. But it's also hard to argue against them because both of them deliver absolutely beautiful and heart-wrenching performances. And after a while, they also made me forget about it completely, and I was just watching this old couple and how they are grieving the loss of their son.
I agree. We've certainly seen our fair share of bad makeup, not only in Indian cinema, but also in Hollywood. I'm talking to you, J. Edgar. But they did a pretty decent job in Saaransh, and like you, I wasn't distracted or anything. It felt really organic, and yeah, Anupam Kher and Rohini Hattangadi made me forget to even think about it.
Saaransh is a remarkable film, an empathetic, human and also complex look at loss and how the people who have lost someone have to continue with their lives. Director Mahesh Bhatt did a great job in depicting that indescribable void that is left, and from the beginning the movie is drenched in this bitter sadness, but completely without going overboard. It's not overtly sentimental or melodramatic at all. It's much more in that parallel cinema vein, a very intimate, very sincere depiction.
One thing that you immediately realize is that BV Pradhan is obsessed with something. Something is giving him a hard fight. In the first scene, the moment he wakes up, he turns on the flashlight and takes a look at some pictures that are obviously arranged in some way. So his mind is apparently very busy, and it doesn't take long. I think it's the next scene where he begins writing a letter to his son, when he realizes, and we with him, that his son is dead.
But Saaransh isn't just depicting the loss of a child, it also presents us with a couple in which one person is an atheist and the other a believer, which makes for a super interesting dynamic, showing us different means to cope, and how loss can become overbearing and leading you to very extreme perspectives and actions.
BV has lost all faith, and he openly directs his anger at Parvati, who hasn't lost it. So there is like this hot button issue in the middle of their relationship, but it's kind of losing its significance a bit after a paying guest, Sujata, comes to their house and moves into their son's old room, which of course has even more and far-reaching consequences for the family, because BV is searching for a reason to live.
We are not really new to hard-hitting and uncompromising dramas, and yet I was surprised how directly the film is dealing with topics like suicide.
Absolutely, it's so interesting to see that and to be confronted with a sometimes so very bleak character like BV Pradhan, who more than once is the total killjoy. Especially in that moment when Sujata celebrates her birthday and they all laugh, and Parvati's offered a piece of the birthday cake, and BV says, "The poison works faster on an empty stomach." Boom.
I felt from the beginning that I was watching something quite special, yet I had no idea where it would actually go. For a while I just thought that this is a very genuine and touching film about loss and how this elderly couple comes to terms with the death of their son. But when the story really gets going, when that element is crossing over with the story of Sujata, it's when the film is really shifting gears and all of a sudden it becomes this very exciting, kind of art house David versus Goliath story.
I thought it was handled really well how these two different stories come together. The first part is all about BV looking for answers, looking for a reason to live, and he doesn't find one. There are so many heart-wrenching moments like when he gets his son's ashes or the song Hargadi Dalrahi Shamhei Zindagi, which is more or less BV's goodbye to life song. So it's really a very depressing situation all over, but then the other story kicks in, right in the moment when BV and Parvati are about to drink poison. And yeah, his search for a reason to live, a mission if you will, presents itself when they learn about Sujata's pregnancy.
For lack of a better word, B.V. Pradhan becomes kind of a badass, and all of a sudden I was really pumped up for this. Saaransh turns into this really tense film, almost like a thriller, and it's made even more tense because we have an elderly couple and a pregnant woman on one side, and a powerful, influential politician, his goons, and a corrupt police on the other. Nilo Fule is pretty good as the movie's villain. He's right on that edge of not becoming too cartoonishly evil. He's just a real scumbag, but it's believable.
I actually had some issues with this break in the movie. Like I said, I liked the transition to the new story angle, and I also liked this David versus Goliath thriller stuff in of itself. But as part of the movie, I found it to be slightly displaced. How we switch from this parallel cinema vibe, or rather middle-of-the-road cinema vibe, because these people definitely belong to the middle class, to this 80s exploitation thriller atmosphere with the music and these run-of-the-mill goons, it wasn't working that well for me.
That's really surprising. I thought that you would love all that. What's so great about it is that it doesn't just have these really well done thriller elements, but that it all comes together so wonderfully on a thematic level as well. It's about this new meaning in life after the death of their son, to do something that's good, to help someone, to keep on going. It's really great. When Sujata, who works as an actress, first moves in, they are actually kidding that she should get B.V. Pradhan a role as the hero in her next film. And when you think about it, that's kind of what actually happens.
It's true. I almost forgot about that, but yeah.
The whole situation with the elderly couple and the pregnant woman somehow reminded me of Rosemary's Baby. First, because that threat and the angst become really tangible. The movie does a great job showing how vulnerable you are and how dangerous it can be, and that you don't know who to trust. Second, because Parvati has this troubling obsession with the unborn child.
Well, I've never seen Rosemary's Baby, but I thought that this angle with Parvati's obsessive behavior was quite fascinating. When she tells Sujata that the child in her womb belongs to her because it's the reincarnation of their son Ajay, it's really frightening. She also calls BV a demon.
Saaransh is almost 40 years old, and yet so much of it seems to be absolutely timely. Of course, you have universal themes about the human condition, about life and death, but you also have these social issues that unfortunately still ring very true today. How the film manages to incorporate so much into its narrative, from the patriarchal society, corrupt politicians and police, to bureaucracy, or even just that rent is so very expensive and everybody has to look how to make ends meet. I found the film to be really relevant.
You're right. I mean, I somehow wasn't that much into the movie and its relevancy, and I don't know why that is. I mean, besides that break that I talked about, but it's certainly ahead of its time, especially with the portrayal of Sujata, who is this very strong woman that knows what she wants, and she's fighting for it. Soni Rastan is pretty magnificent in the role. I don't know who she kept reminding me of.
Alia Bhatt?
That's it, yes.
Well, Soni Rastan is her mother, and Mahesh Bhatt, the director, is her father.
Okay, didn't know that.
Now you know. Anyway, we talked a little bit about the beautiful music that was composed by Ajit Varman with lyrics by Anand Dev, but the cinematography is another thing that stuck in my mind.
Yeah, Adip Tandon's cinematography is beautiful and expressive. For example, these very hazy images when BV takes his morning stroll with his brother-in-law Vishwanath, or the many images that display BV's loneliness when he sits on a bench or when he walks out of the library. And I thought that the color palette, these pastel colors, were very striking.
And you know, I loved the ending. I thought I had figured out how the movie would end, but then they are doing it slightly different and it was just so moving.
I agree. So, what would we say in German about Saaransh?
Saaransh hat mich umgehauen. Die gefühlvolle Erzählung über Verlust, Leben und Tod, der spannende Thriller, der daraus entsteht und den Film auf ein komplett neues Level hebt und die tollen Schauspieler, die herzzerreißend und kraftvoll agieren, machen aus diesem Film etwas ganz Besonderes. I give Saaranch 9 out of 10. It's more like 8.5, but I don't do that.
For me, it's 7 out of 10. It's more like 7.4, but I don't do that either. Did you know that one of only 2 known original copies of Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy is held in the library of the Asiatic Society of Mumbai? It's the library where B.V. Pradhan has the job interview.
That's interesting. Didn't know that. So, what are your thoughts about Saaranch? Leave a comment. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd and also on Patreon, simply at the Jimmy Cage.
And you can hit me up on Twitter at the Buddymeister.
And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like.
And make sure you hit that bell for all we have to tell.